In 1900, the 8-nation alliance, which were Germany, Japan, Russia, Britain, France, the USA, Italy, and Austria-Hungary, invaded Beijing. The city had been turned into complete chaos. The emperor, the empress dowager, the ministers, the eunuch, and the palace women fled to Zin City. Prince King heard that Deking, 60 years old, was a venerable monk. So he asked Deking to accompany them to the west to keep safe. Monk Deking looked with a telescope and saw that a group of victims were cutting the meat of starved corpses. Some of the victims had not breathed their last, but they were also cut alive. Several people worked together to catch the dying weak. The other went to cut his flesh. The dying begged and screamed but was not spared. Some of the strong burned the corpse meat with fire, while others swallowed raw actually. Deking saw that and was frightened, his cheeks were streaming with tears. He wept tremblingly and said, "Bodhisattva, how can I save these victims? Oh, the blue sky! Why are the Chinese so miserable?" Deking couldn't bear to look any further. He turned to Chongsen, the provincial governor, and begged, "Eminence Sin, please send someone to follow me out of the city to dole out kanji. If you don't rescue them, they will all die." Sin sighed, "Master, now the food in the city can maintain for only a week. How can I distribute the redundant food to the outside of the city? Even if you go out and dole out kanji, it's just like using a glass of water to save a cart of firewood catching fire. Whom can you save? I'm afraid you would be punched to the ground by the victims as soon as you exit the city gate. Not only the victims rob of the kanji but also kill you." Deking cried, "What a pity they are! If the meat on my body is enough to feed the victims, what would I be sorry for? Your Eminence, please let me out." Sin shook his head, "Master, you are so stupid. Even if you let the victims eat you to save them, how many more days can they live? And how many people can you save?" The weather was getting hotter, and the corpses of the starved victims outside the city became more and more stinky. The stinky odor was blowing into the city with the wind, which was disgusting. A few days later, a plague occurred. The fields outside the city were full of corpses. The smell was soaring to the sky. Millions of flies flied and gathered around the bodies. Hungry eagles and wild dogs devoured people alive and the dead bodies. Looking out of the city, a half of the hundreds of thousands of victims had fallen dead, and their bodies were spread all over the fields and hills. Telegrams were sent from many places in the country. The plague had inflicted severe damage on both Shaanxi and Shaanxi provinces. In Zin City, some people had fallen dead too. Many residents were so anxious that they shouted in front of the government office. Empress Dowager Cixi was so worried that she summoned the ministers and said, "Foreign soldiers occupied my forbidden palace and killed my people. And we don't have peace talk yet. Here in Gansu and Shaanxi, drought, hunger, and plague occur all of a sudden. I heard that even the victims had eaten raw corpse. Our dynasty has suffered such unprecedented disasters. You must figure out a solution. First of all, we need to relieve the victims. Otherwise, if the victims start a rebellion and storm Zin City, everyone, including you and me, will die." Sin said, "Your Majesty, I have previously set up kanji kitchens for alms in Zin City on imperial orders. There are now 8 kanji kitchens. Buddhist monks and nuns in various places have volunteered to come and cook kanji to give alms. But we have a food shortage in Zin City. which can support the army and people in the city for up to 10 days. Minister Wu has urged each province to hand in food, but that has not come yet. We are actually unable to dole out to the victims outside the city. The empress wept and said, "Is this sky's will to perish my dynasty? Why do disasters come one after another? It is reported that there are too many unburied bodies in the nearby provinces due to starvation. A plague has already occurred accordingly. We are sitting in this temporary imperial residence, there is nothing we can do now. Are we really waiting for perishing?" Sun replied, "Your Majesty, all these are natural disasters and doom, which are difficult to recover with manpower. I suggest that the Empress go to the Sleeping Dragon Temple to pray to the Supreme Sky, and ask Decking National Master to pray to the Buddha for a heavy snowfall to eliminate the disasters. This is the only way we can do to be rescued." The Empress said, "I should worship the Buddha and repent. You suggested that monk Decking pray for a heavy snowfall to eliminate the disaster. It also makes sense. Indeed, now that there is no food and no medicine, how can we get rid of the plague? The plague can be eliminated only if there is heavy snowfall. But now it's in August, the very hot summer. How can we get the heavy snow?" Sun replied, "The National Master Decking's practicing state is profound. He had been traveling with us all the way here, chanting Buddha and praying for Empress. Aren't there magical experiences sometimes? I'm convinced that he will be able to pray for heavy snow and eliminate the disaster. I anticipate Empress issues an imperial edict commanding him to pray for a snowfall." The Empress said, "I have no other choice. You call Master Decking here. I will ask him in person later." Decking was called and knelt on his knees. "Your Majesty, Decking is here." The Empress said mildly, "Master, please get up. I call you here for something. Minister Sun recommended that you take my place and pray for a heavy snowfall to eradicate the plague. Is it okay for you?" Decking hurriedly said, "Since Empress has the will, I shall do my best to pray to the Buddha and Bodhisattva for blessing and protection. I also believe that the Buddha and Bodhisattva will have compassion for the misery and suffering of all living beings. However, I don't have magical power but to pray sincerely. The opportunity for success is difficult to predict." The Empress said, "You just pray as much as you can. Success or failure is predestined. If you can't pray for heavy snow, I won't blame you, and it will be my doom. This is the only way left to survive in the struggle of life and death." Decking said, "I will obey the order as you said and immediately return to the Sleeping Dragon Temple to prepare. And we'll invite Empress to come and offer incense." The Empress said, "Go ahead and arrange it. I will come to the temple to offer incense tomorrow." The Empress brought Guangxu Emperor, the Empress' nephew, to offer incense at the temple, and ordered Decking to pray for snow to eliminate the plague, which caused a sensation in Zin City. The Empress went back to the palace after offering the incense, and monk Decking received imperial decree to pray for a snowfall. He had never prayed for snow in his lifetime or even prayed for rain. He didn't know how to do. Elder Dong Xia said, "Decking, today this errand is really difficult to take. In addition to the Master Dao in 312 to 385 AD, in Jin Dynasty prayed for rainfall successfully and won the support of the royal court and the people. So far in the past 1,600 years, which monk dared to take over the royal job of praying for snow? This errand of snow prayer can be said to be an unprecedented event in Buddhism. If you can pray for heavy snowfalls, it goes without saying that it is a great boost to the Dharma. If you fail, Buddhism will be over from now. You have to try your best sincerely." Decking said, "Elder, rest assured, the Empress has said that she won't blame me if I can't pray for a snowfall." The elder said, "Even though Empress won't blame you, we Buddhism will lose face thoroughly." Decking said, I will pray sincerely. How will I know what the will of the sky is? The elder said, what do you need? Do you need I lead the whole temple to help you? Decking said, it's more important to work on doling out kanji. Elder and the other masters don't need to spare time and help me. Anyway, I'm not confident in praying for heavy snow. I would rather take all the responsibility alone. Monk Decking boarded an open-air wooden platform built by the laborers and soldiers called bison. He knelt on the wooden platform alone, prostrating himself and worshipping to the sky. The fierce sun is hanging in the sky, shining on his head. Manjushri Bodhisattva, he prayed, please bless the millions of victims. Let the snow fall to clear the plague. He knelt on the wooden platform with all devotion. He closed his eyes, tears dripped out of his eyes and covered his cheeks. He knelt under the blazing sun for a whole day. People from all over Shin were eager to see the monk praying for snow. They only saw Deking monk kneeling on the 10 feet high platform and worshipping to the sky. His sincerity might have touched some people, but everyone said, will the old monk worship in vain? Now, in this hot summer season, there isn't even the shadow of snow in the sky. How is that possible to pray for heavy snow? Also, those who usually didn't believe in Buddhism said, snow in August, isn't this a foolish dream? The surrounding onlookers were getting more and more. They were gossiping with ridicule, laughter, and satire. The harassment made Deking even more disturbed. He wasn't afraid of being ridiculed due to the failure of praying for snowfall but worried that the failure results in being unable to extinguish the plague. How important is personal honor or shame? The plague spread many provinces and killed hundreds of thousands of people, and that is horrible. Some audience said, is this old monk acting funny? When the Taoist priests pray for the rain, they also burn incantation paper, hit cymbals, brandish swords, sing and dance. The old monk does nothing, kneels alone on the stage and closes his eyes. What kind of prayer is this? Another said, isn't he just a swindler? He just closed his eyes and dozed off on the stage. He isn't praying for snow. Look at him like this, he neither sings nor chants nor worships nor dances, I wonder he can pray for snow. Another said, then the sun will come out from the west and fall to the east. Monk Deking felt that he hadn't cultivated well. When hearing the gossip and whisper, he felt uneasy. Yes, his state of meditative concentration was not enough. He thought, I should not be distracted, and I have to turn a deaf ear to the hustle and bustle. I must let it go even if they laugh at me. I must concentrate on praying. He heard someone said, does it matter for this old monk to pray? Where is the Buddha in the world really? There are bodhisattvas actually, someone said. But this plague is a natural disaster. Even the bodhisattvas do not have such a magical power to dispel it. Deking prayed sincerely, Manjushri Bodhisattva. Do you hear the ignorant words of those foolish beings? Bodhisattva, please bestow the mighty spirit so that sentient beings will have faith in the boundlessness of Buddha Dharma and dispel false belief. And devote their bodhicitta from now. Then he continued to pray, and gradually he was able to get rid of the ridiculous bustle outside. Indeed, if you can remain calm in the bustle, that is the real effort of samadhi, and that's a state hard to achieve. Monk Deking couldn't enter calmness amidst the tumultuous noises of the mini audience straight away, but he did enter calmness gradually. He seemed to hear those voices turning into turbulent waterfalls, just like the sound of the Huangashu Falls in Guizhou where he had visited, without hearing other voice. Gradually, the noise that he heard became like the torrent of the river. He knew it still existed, but it had no meaning to him anymore. He seemed to be a stone sitting by the water all year round. He was accustomed to the stream and hadn't heard it for a long time. He gradually entered the semi-conscious state of tranquility. His heart became luminant, and the luminance continued to expand, making him feel incomparably broad-minded, extremely calm and comfortable. He felt a huge halo radiating from the top of his head. And he felt himself floating in the void golden light and flying. He was still mindful of Manjushri Bodhisattva and of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva continuously. and he kept on praying to them, "O Bodhisattva, please be merciful and compassionate, make snowfalls and ice to extinguish the plague, and save people's life and livelihood." He didn't know that he had knelt from morning till night. He couldn't see the soldiers guarding him around the stage. The torches were erected on all sides, and the light shone on the stone-like monk decking who was kneeling on the stage. Many onlookers were still surrounding and watching, but gradually dissipated in the evening. At midnight, the waning moon hung in the sky. It was a starry night. Snow Shadow was still unseen. The audience was mostly disappointed, and they were all gone. The guards were impatient and felt drowsy under the stage. There seemed to be no hope. Indeed, how could it be snowing in August? However, near dawn, a miracle occurred. Tiny snowflakes began to drift in the sky, and no one noticed it. Those snowflakes drifted more and more. Gradually, before dawn, the sky was full of white shadows. Numerous goose-like snowflakes were drifting and falling. At that moment, all sounds seemed to be silent. The heavy snow fell quietly and piled on the eaves of the tower, covering the roof of the palaces and houses in Zen. It paved and whitened the ground, and decorated the branches with pure white and delicacy. The entire Zen had become a snow-white crystal world, and jade building was everywhere. Not only inside and outside Zen City, but also the areas of Shaanxi, and Henan had become snow-white worlds. Nevious snow fell on the head of monk decking, but he was not aware of it. He was still in the meditative concentration. He knew that the Bodhisattva had manifested his magical power. He glimpsed the golden light and flashy snow, but his body did not feel cold at all. The guards were frozen and awoke, shouting, "It's snowing! Oh! It's really snowing!" The people of the Zen city were amazed and all ran outside to look up to the heavy snow falling from the sky in the midsummer, and held up the frozen white snow in their palms delightfully. The Empress walked out of the corridor in the palace and reached out to pick up the snow. "Oh! It's snowing actually! This monk decking is really a phenomenon," she told the waiters. "See how deep the snow is?" The waiter went to measure the snow, and shrieked, "Your Majesty, the snow is 6 to 7 inches deep, and it is still snowing. The plague will be put out this time. This is the genuine bliss of the country." The Empress said, "Pass on the order quickly. I want to go to the Sleeping Dragon Temple personally to worship the Buddha to redeem my vow, also to worship monk decking." The Empress, under the protection of the governor and the soldiers, took the royal sedan and braved the snow to the front of the temple. At that moment, thousands of people had been there, kneeling on the snow, worshipping the onstage monk decking. Many of them were touched in tears,